Obviously, AEP is proposing to put a transmission line across not only Craig County, but 4 counties, which are going to include Washington, Craig, Nowata, and Ottawa County. Really, the purpose of me being here is really to educate not only the commissioners, but just the general public. What's going on, what's taking place, what this is and what this isn't. I have quite a bit of knowledge in this, in the electrical field. That's really what I've done for all of my career. And so just with that, I just want to be able to explain things kind of on a more basic level of what's going on, what's happening, what this is going to influence, what it's not going to influence. So in general, I just want to start off with the basic principles of electricity. Like I said, I don't want to drag into everybody's morning, don't want to drag this on forever, but electricity in general, you can think of it more like a water line. So you have voltage, I'm going to say V, you have amps, which voltage is going to be more like your pressure on your water line. And then your amps are going to be the actual water volume, the water itself. Now, you obviously have different size water lines. You can have 1/2 inch, 2 inch, whatever. But basically, I just want you to have kind of encompass of your voltage, your amperage, you have pressure, you have the volume, you have the actual thing that you're after. The amps is actually what makes the lights actually come on and burn. The voltage is just what pushes it to where it's going. So with that, let's see. The one thing that you have to know about electricity, where it differs from water, is the fact that water can have different pressures. So if you have a 2-inch line right here meeting an 8-inch line right here, and you have a 2-inch line with 80 pounds of pressure, and it meets this 6-inch line with 60 pounds of pressure, you can still interconnect those. The pressure is going to displace, but you can connect those lines. Electricity is different than water in the aspect of when you have different voltages and you have different sources and you have different phase angles, they don't interconnect. So with that, I'm just kind of trying to give you guys a scope and an understanding of what electricity can and somewhat can't do, what it's trying to do and what it's not trying to do, kind of more in a simplistic way. So you have, like I say, different voltages, different levels of voltages, and that's kind of what we're going to be basically talking about. You have your high voltage, which is your transmission voltage, which is kind of what they're proposing to put across here, and that's really from, say, 60,000 volts and up. Then you have what's called distribution or medium voltage. This is going to be like what REC, PSO, or AEP, whatever you want to call their smaller entities here that start a distribution. That's going to be really from 40,000 volts and down. Well, I say down. It's going to be from 40,000 volts, just say, to about 4,000 volts. Then you have your low voltage, or your customer voltage, which is going to be from your 4,000 volts and down. So the thing to know about your transmission, your distribution, and your low voltage, I mean, obviously we're not really going to worry about your low voltage right now, but your distribution voltage, the difference between distribution voltage and your high voltage in some regards is that distribution, they don't really integrate each other. Like what people are going to realize, like REC system is only REC system. It doesn't integrate with Empire or Liberty now, I guess, or AEP or something like that. They don't tie together. If you have REC power, you're only going to get REC power. Whereas in high voltage, your transmission voltage can do what they kind of call wheel power, or they kind of the system integrates. Basically, your transmission, what they call the system or the grid, it brings from a giant power source. I'm sorry if I'm blocking you guys' view. But it can integrate to different substations and different things in different areas, and it connects to make what the transmission people call the system or the grid. So let me erase some of these things here real quick. So as this integrates, some of it does and some of it doesn't. For various reasons. Some of it's going to be because of differences in voltages. Some of it's going to be difference in company and utilities that that are using these things. But it's good to keep in your mind that some of these things integrate and come together, and some of these things don't, and they won't, and they can't. So with that, let's see, next page. Obviously, we have a proposed transmission line, and we have 2 strings here. this is a map of Craig County. These two strings, roughly, because it's not exactly the trail that they follow, because that's going to be a lot of string and a lot of time and effort. Basically, these two strings represent the two proposed directions that they're taking the line east across the county, east to west, roughly following either 140 road or 160 road. And so with that, this is a 345,000 volt line, which is a lot. Let's see here. So with it being a 345,000 volt line cutting across there, obviously there's a lot of landowners, there's gonna be a lot of your constituents, there's gonna be a lot of people wondering what are the risks, what are the damages, what are the things associated with this high voltage, this high line. We already have a 345,000 volt line. KMO Power built it probably 15 years ago or somewhere in there, probably 12 to 15 years ago, that cuts down through the county. But anyway, so with this, just kind of a revamping of what things are associated with this project. So one of the things you're going to hear a lot of people try to say is the term stray voltage. I'm going to say, coming from an electrical background, stray voltage doesn't exist. But what does exist is what's called static voltage, or the electromagnetic field. So what the electromagnetic field is say the wire is right here in the center, and you are looking like long with the wire, like it's going down the structures long ways this way. The electromagnetic field, what it does is it basically invisibly circles around the wire. The higher the voltage, the larger this magnetic field is. And it continues to grow. And that magnetic field, it's basically electrons flowing around this wire in a circle, and anything that comes in the path of that electromagnetic field that is a conductor, which would be any kind of wire or absolutely anything that conducts electricity, is going to pick up on this electromagnetic field. What does that do? Basically, it's going to have the ability to pick up an electric charge. Now, the differences in electrical charges, like I was talking about earlier about voltage and amps. Voltage, to make it really simple, voltage hurts and amperage kills. So with your voltage, it's a reason why the taser he's probably got on him or has can shoot several hundreds of thousands of volts, but it doesn't have very many amps. So it's going to hurt you, but it's not going to kill you. So just like keep this in mind, that like say when these static charges and all these scenarios and all these scenarios are completely trying to think of the right term here. Basically, they're all going to be individual. Like I say, it's going to depend on how far this conductor goes along parallel with these lines. It's going to have how far it is to a certain ground or anything like that. Like a barbed wire fence is not going to be the same as an electric fence. An electric fence, where it's set up on insulators, is going to have the ability to carry a lot more of an electric charge a lot further from the electromagnetic field of these lines. That is one of the things. So then you have, more of your health and safety concerns with the electromagnetic field. Kind of like I was saying with the fence, each and every situation is completely different. So to find what I'm gonna say, credible data or credible scientific evidence of saying that the electromagnetic field has a positive or negative effect on someone's health and safety, or their animal's health and safety, it's gonna be hard to find. Most of the information out there, any of the studies out there, are funded by the companies that are wanting to put on these projects. And so they are going to set the parameters of the study to fit the results that they want to get. So I'm going to say that's the best example I can give is smoking cigarettes. Off the top of my head, smoking a cigarette. If you're going to have some people that smoke cigarettes for 60 years and never get lung cancer, and you're going to have some people that smoke cigarettes for 10 years, get lung cancer and die. Why? There's different parameters. This person may eat cleaner and have a healthier lifestyle and a less stressful job, and they smoke cigarettes. This person may have a high stressful job, eat donuts all day, and smoke cigarettes. There are different things, people's biological things. There's so many different variables to just say at point blank, this is what happened. But we all know that smoking in general is bad for your health. So just kind of keep that in mind. But for me, probably one of the biggest problems with this transmission line cutting across our county in the way that it does is really what I'm going to consider the destruction of property values and the kind of more property diversity limiting factors that it puts on the community and the individual property owners themselves, especially after it's constructed. So this has to do with like the fact that there's no doubt when you put a 345 line across somebody's property, it's not near as pretty as it once was. That's just the cold case of the matter. So what is this company gonna come into the county and do? They're gonna try and buy easements to come across each one of these individual property owners. With these easements, these are a very cheap one-time buy-off for a very long life continuing structures or obstruction to the area. So with that, you have this one-time cheap buy-off. So say they're planning on coming in here and getting a rough estimate of what property's bringing per acre, and it's $5,000 an acre. And come across your property, it's gonna, the 150-foot right-of-way they're talking about is gonna take up 3 acres. So they're gonna pay you $15,000 for the lifetime of this project. That's not a very good deal. A very good deal is the fact that they're trucking this thing across the top of your property, and they're going to continue to make money off of it with every amperage, every amount of current that pushes across this thing. They are going to continue to generate money for the lifespan of this project. So what would be a better option? Obviously would be to do some sort of royalties or something where they cross your property and they have to continue to pay. Whether you sell that property, whoever owns that property, they should have to pay. Like I say, for making money off of your property. So I don't always want to just be some squeaky wheel. I also want to have some proposed solutions, not just for us, but for AEP. So AEP, some of the solutions I would propose to them is, one, to put generation where the demand is needed. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the Oklahoma rural system that we have in these 4 counties. And they are trucking this line across these 4 counties pretty much in the aspect of making money. Something else they can do is to utilize easements and right-of-ways that already exist, different corridors that actually already exist. Yes, this is more difficult and stuff, but all this comes down to, folks, in the general, is cost. So a better analogy would be, say, let me just draw it out here. So the best example I can think to give right now is just say cattle and water. This is a rural area, cattle and water. So say this is all kind of AEPs, and say this is individuals, and say that this is a giant pond up here, okay? Basically, in layman's terms, what they're trying to do, they have tire tanks at these 3 little dots. And this 3 little dots isn't enough to get cattle water. And they really want water down here at this X to utilize this area right down here. So what they're planning on doing is trying to truck water across the top of the ground in a big old pipe across all these landowners to get it down here to the X, okay? What do we normally do in the pond world? If you need a pond somewhere, you just build a pond, okay? It's the same thing. You can build generation where the demand is needed. It just costs. And so what it comes down to as well, keep going here, sorry, trying not to waste everybody's time, is, yeah, let's see, it comes down to cost. So something I want to kind of talk about here would be what I'm going to consider I'm going to personally consider some of the half-truths or the things I just don't agree with that I feel like AEP was promoting to, whether it be the commissioners or the constituents, anybody that came to any of their things, any of the letters they sent out. Some of the things that I didn't agree with was, this is to enhance the electrical service and reliability and quality, okay? The question is to who? Who is this bringing up to? So this line goes to the Delaware substation. That's an AEP substation. And without looking at the transmission line and having that map in front of you, I'm just gonna go off the cuff and say that there is a chance that because AEP feeds Veneta, it feeds, I believe, Nowata and Bartlesville, that there would be a chance that they could connect and bring some of that power this way. But where it's 100%, I don't believe like it can contribute to any of the rural population. They don't provide power to REC or any of that. That's KMO power. They don't provide power to these rural areas that they're cutting across. And like I say, if they want to enhance their system and stuff, they can follow the right-of-ways and corridors that they already have to enhance the system on their way across the country. So even if they were to try and make the claim that, well, we're gonna tie into the Veneta system here and we're gonna make it a loop feed system instead of a radial feed system or something like that. What does that mean? That means more transmission lines, more substations, more encroachment. So another thing that they say the SPP is mandating that the system has has some upgrades for a stronger, like I say, for stronger upgrades. Well, like I say, the biggest thing that the general public doesn't really understand is that the Northeast Oklahoma grid system is fine. I'm not saying that it can't handle a few upgrades and maybe be a little bit better in some areas, but in general, it's fine. It doesn't need anything. It is when you start adding in, sending the power more out of state, and when you're sending in more large loads like data centers, that is when our system gets weaker. This is when we start needing more and more and more. So then, one of the things they said that this lowers the cost across the region to deliver, to decrease the rate. Well, I would say to decrease the rates. It's just lower cost for them to deliver energy. The problem is, just like everybody in this room, your rates have never decreased. They will never ever decrease. Okay. The one thing is that this line is going to come back on the ratepayers. Period. There's no doubt it has to. You want to know why? AEP is a publicly traded company. Different than REC, different than even KMO Power. Those are cooperatives. Cooperatives, whenever they make a profit, they have to distribute it back to its members, which is to the people. As compared to a publicly traded company, their, in general, best idea is to make money for the shareholders. I don't even want to go down who their main shareholders are. You can look it up for yourself. So what this ultimately, like I say, comes down to is money and cost and making money for their shareholders. And so, like I say, there are different avenues. To give it another really basic example is to say that the government wanted to push a vaccine to 1 million people. They want to push it just easily to say 1 million people. So the government knows when they push it out, it's going to negatively affect 100,000 people. 100%. They know it's going to happen. It's going to negatively affect these people. They push it out anyways, okay? And they expect the 100,000 just to wear it. Just like the people that they're trying to truck across, they're expecting you just to wear it. It's not benefiting you in any way. But what they also know is there's something called vitamin C. Vitamin C, for whatever they're making this vaccine for, could actually help with this. And what they're not going to tell you is that they're not going to take this high dose of vitamin C and displace it to all these people. They're just going to send out this vaccine and just let the 100,000 negatively wear it. And so I'm just trying to get your mind and your concept around what this is actually doing and what it actually can do. So I know that because this isn't the first time I've talked up here and stuff like that, there's going to be some people say like, hey, you're just against progress in general. You're just against anything new or anything like that. I'm just here to tell you, I'm not against progress. What I'm totally against is any kind of what I'm going to call non-essential, irresponsible progress that doesn't come in the form of benefiting the area that it's totally affecting. So that is, to me, taking advantage of people in the area, taking away from them financially and their quality of life. To me, that's just not acceptable. So what can we do about this? Not just commissioners, but people in general. What can we do about this? The one thing I can wholeheartedly promise everybody in this room, as individuals or as a small group, there is zero we can do. Period. We can do nothing. It doesn't matter how highfalutin of attorney you try to purchase or how much money you got in your pockets. There is nothing you can do as an individual or as a small group. So if we were to stand together, not only as the landowners that this is affecting, but as an entire county, not only that entire county, but the entire 4 counties in Oklahoma that this is trying to affect, we have a huge footprint. Because actually the Bible says, for we are to love our neighbors as ourselves and to share each other's burdens. This means we are to come together and we are to help each other. So the first thing we need to do as landowners is not sign any easements. There's no reason to sign any easements for them to come across your property. Even if they were to try to implement eminent domain, they have to give you just compensation to do anything that they're going to do. So that's one thing hugely to keep in mind. The next thing you can do is, we have created a formal opposition organization called Protect Rural Oklahoma, for you to get anybody, like I say, you don't have to be a landowner to be plugged into this and to help, like I say, the county and the people, and to help with resources, for everybody to come together. And this is not just for Craig County, this is for all 4 counties, this is for the state, to be able to come together on some of these issues where it's just constant encroachment on our rural areas. The next thing is to get involved with elected officials, which is part of the reason why I'm wanting to get here and educate county commissioners. There are things that county commissioners can do. They can talk to their constituents, they can talk to people, but there are things that they can do to help. Because like I say, this shouldn't be a lose-lose situation. This shouldn't be just the AEP comes in here, builds a transmission line, and they bail out of here. It should be more of, the county commissioners have the ability to put up road use agreements, tell them what roads they can and can't travel on. They have the ability to set up bond money for any damages that these heavy trucks and different things that they're gonna be coming and doing. They have the ability, I don't know all the aspects of it, that would be for the DA or whoever, to set up moratoriums, to say, hey, we're gonna put a pause on this and just figure out, is this good for our area? Get more educated on the situation. The next level, let's get involved with state legislators in every district that covers this project, that tells them at a state level, we need representation to say, we need regulations against large large energy companies to just come in and just take advantage of the residents in the rural areas. There needs to be regulations, there needs to be there just needs to be more restraint put on this, because I just feel like they can do whatever they want whenever they want. Really, in general, that is most of what I got, guys. If you have questions, I'm happy to field them. If I don't have the answer, I'll tell you I don't have the answer and I'll get it to you. But that is, in general, most of what my presentation is kind of about. Like I say, just trying to kind of educate you guys on what this thing can and can't do. In general, to me, like I say, the way it cuts across the county, you can see right there, there's not anywhere where it's branching. Like I say, to help feed the city of Anita. It's not trying to make some kind of loop feed or do something special. All it's really trying to do is deliver power across our county, okay? And a one-time easement doesn't really benefit the county. A one-time easement buyoff there's no telling how many millions of dollars that this project and the lifespan of it will be worth. So I just think that this is something to keep in mind. And like I say, any questions or comments, I'm happy to field them.
So Ben, does this not connect to what is the Blackberry, there's a point in
Missouri.
Seneca, Missouri, that it actually is going to connect to, right?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, like I said, I haven't got their final details. All they say is it's preliminary drawings, but there's a chance.
Speculation, this is all really to feed Northwest Arkansas.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And does anyone have any speculation on what the power source is? We know that Wolf Creek Power Plant already has a line, the nuclear power plant in Kansas already has a line to that junction.
I don't want to just terribly speak completely out of line, or just speak off the cuff. Like I say, I don't, because of limited information provided to me, I don't have the exact generation power provider, and I don't have an exact delivery point. And like I say, with this, like I say, this is a major delivery.
Well, maybe AEP.
Yeah, right, yeah. But like I said, this is a major delivery point. The two things, whether they tell you or not, they have a provider, a specific provider that they're gonna draw this power from. They don't build a project like this without it. So for them to say, well, we're not sure, generation comes from a lot of places, baloney. They have solidified generation that they know is gonna be trucking down here. Not saying that some can be added at different times, more can be added in, but I'm just saying they have an idea of where this power is coming from. They have a huge idea of where this power is going to and what it's for. They don't build these projects without it.
Ben, I've got some fact sheets here for anybody that's interested in knowing a little bit more about the project.
Absolutely, yeah,
So
yeah.
anybody
Get with
needs
Jason
that,
Bryant.
I've got those.
Let's say we have some extra sheets and stuff. Commissioners, you guys have any questions or comments?
Ben, I was told that it's coming from Wichita, Kansas, and it's going to Branson, Missouri. And why it's coming, these kind of routes it's taken is beyond my knowledge. Why is it not coming from Wichita, Kansas, right down the state line, over to Branson, and leave us alone?
So,
Exactly.
well,
Down Highway
well,
166.
so my thing is, I
Hit
don't,
that highway.
me personally, I don't like the fact of rerouting it. Because all you're doing by rerouting it is pushing the problem that we are all in here facing off onto your neighbor. I don't appreciate that. Like I said, the true answer is to create generation where the power is needed. That the demand is. You don't have to have transmission lines cutting across all of rural Oklahoma if you'll put the generation where the demand is needed. But on the case that you're saying here, why are they not following Wichita and all this stuff? I'm just gonna venture out to say, one, they're wanting to come down to plug into their Delaware substation, so they're wanting to make that. The reason they're cutting across in general, I'm just going to say, is gonna be more along the lines of lack of regulation, abundant resource, cheap land, you know, those type of things, like say, lack of opposition. There's already the Evergy line that's coming from Wichita, Kansas down to the Delaware substation is catching a lot of flack in Kansas. Okay, people know that this isn't a good deal. They know that there's something else to be done. But that is, in general, like I say, my best outside guess is gonna say that they're trucking across here because they know that there's demand over there. They know that they can make a lot of money and that there's not much formal opposition and there's not much regulation in Oklahoma. Why not? You know, because like I say, AEP is gonna say that they're gonna wanna come down to their Delaware substation to enhance their system. Why they're trucking it across to Missouri, pretty much for me is gonna be purely profit. Yeah.
And I've talked to several engineers. I was on a trip in Pennsylvania and I talked to an engineer that was from Virginia, and he informed me that the solution to the power energy that people needed is nuclear, and we've got nuclear everywhere. Does all of our warplanes, our warships, nuclear. He assured me nuclear is plenty safe enough, it can be used. And after I spoke with him for a little while, his wife spoke up and says, I was raised by the big nuclear blowout they had up there. And he said, they know how to use that nuclear power now, and it's safer than anything you can have.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as them lines, you can get under them high voltage lines in a certain situation, and they're gonna knock the far out of you.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Like I say, you know, they're saying to make the system stronger. Well, what makes the system stronger is to have more abilities to, you know, like say, when it was this pond example, like say, is for structural stability and more, you know, like say, all the things, like say, the answer is to have the pond where the pond needs to go. It's not to truck the water across the top of the ground from point A to point B and try and water cattle. You put a source where a demand is. And that's what makes things more sustainable. That's what makes things more reliable, is to have more ability to have more sources out there, not just more transmission lines tying together and spider webbing across the nation. Yeah, but it comes down to cost. You know, like I say, shareholders want their profits. You know, if this is you know, it's pretty simple. If you just say that this is a $150 million project to cut this line across here, as compared to putting a generation plant over there, and I'm just gonna throw them, I don't know any numbers, but just say 500 million, man, that looks really simple. You know, we'll just take the 150 million and truck it across these folks. They can't stand against us. That's a really simple answer, you know, as far as when it comes to corporate shareholders.
So what you're saying, build generation where it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where we build generation, we're
Mhm.
gonna need transmission to get it out of there. Or are you saying that every little small electric rural co-op, as in REC or like Empire that feeds Welch,
Mm-hmm.
they should have their own
What I'm
power
saying-
plant? So we're gonna have hundreds of thousands of nuclear plants?
What I'm saying is the footprint for the system that's already out here is already here. You can improve the footprint of the system you already have out here, and then you can also add generation in where these higher demands are coming. You know, if the Joplin area or Branson area or whatever they're thinking this demand is, you can put generation there that would save adding extra footprints in. Like I said, the footprint's already there. If they were to say, hey, we're gonna go from the Delaware substation and make it 345 down our right-of-way corridor that we already exist, we're gonna upgrade all the structures that are already there and upgrade the substations that already exist in Bonita and this and that to boost up. That makes total sense to me. You're following existing corridors and you're actually making better power at these places. But where you're just saying we're gonna cut across here and not put, like I say, what you're doing is cutting across here and just taking generation to a demand. It's like instead of adding an extra footprint, just put generation where the demand is.
In fact, at the federal level and even at the state of Oklahoma level, they're looking at driving these AI data centers to generate their own power and pay for their own infrastructure to feed them.
Correct.
So, you know, which makes a lot of sense. It's, if the utilities do it, then we ought to pay for it, for them to make, you know, do it for-profit
Right.
activities.
Yeah.
So Matt, if AEP is, a publicly traded company, they're not a utility in a sense like a PSO, do they have eminent domain on them?
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
I mean, that's a key thing there is that, you know, we always knew that the utilities have the ability to say, okay, this is for the public good of the
Right.
county and whatever else, but AEP is a commercial enterprise, that should take a new tack, I would think. It's a different tack.
Yeah.
Their website says that they can exercise eminent domain.
They will.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys.
You bet.
Yeah.